Hey everyone, Voodoo here. So months ago now, I made a Mythic Plus guide video for Havoc Demon Hunter, and I stumbled upon it recently, and it is so outdated. So I'm going to private that video, and I'm going to make a new one. So this is going to be your updated 10.2.5 Havoc Demon Hunter Mythic Plus guide. Now, if you're a constant watcher of the channel and you watch all my videos, then a lot of the stuff that's different in this video from that last video, you might already know. But for those of you who don't, or you just want a quick introductory guide to Havoc Demon Hunter in Mythic Plus, then this is going to be for you. We're going to go over all the stuff you need to know. We're going to go over talent builds, rotation, trinkets, other gear, stats, embellishments, stuff like that. Pretty quickly, hopefully, for the stuff that you need to know to play Havoc Demon Hunter in season 3, 10.2.5 of Dragonflight. So, like the video, comment, subscribe. We are so close to 10,000. We're under 500 subs. So if you want to subscribe, that'd be great. And let's start off with the talent builds. So for talents, there's really only going to be 2 talent builds. Now you can see here that I'm missing 1 point in the spec tree. And the reason for that is going to be because of just kind of what's up with our choice selection. So in the last video, I just said to do like this. That is no longer the case. We are now playing Furious Gaze, and Fell Barrage is so bad we don't ever play it. Instead, you can put the point into one of 2 options. You can play Essence Break, or you can play Glaive Tempest. Now, at the end of the day, these choices don't really matter. Over the average dungeon, you're going to end up doing the same damage with both of them. They're going to average out the same thing. It won't matter. You can time keys, and keys are being timed to the highest levels with both of them. So it's really a bit of a personal preference. That being said, Glaive Tempest is probably a bit easier, so if you're a newer player, this will probably do really well for you. You just kind of push it whenever you want, doesn't require lining up. It's more of an AoE option. This is more of a priority damage / single target option, but they do basically the same thing averaged out over a key duration, so you really can't pick either. So again, either Glaive Tempest or Essence Break really doesn't matter. The other small choice is on the class tree. If you want to take Sigil of Misery, you're going to do this one I see before you. If you don't want it and you want Infernal Armor, you're going to drop Lost in Darkness, put 1 point there, drop Sigil of Misery, put 1 point there. And those are kind of the only real changes in the talent tree for Havoc Demon Hunter. It's never really worth it to play Serrated Glaive. It's just worse in pretty much everything over Furious Gaze and AoE. Serrated Glaive is a little tiny bit better in bosses, but it loses out so much in AoE, it's never worth it. And Fell Barrage just loses so much in low target counts or single target now. That's it for talents. We're going to go over to a quick rotation guide next, and then move on to stats and the rest of the video. So now we're going to talk about the rotation. So during the rotation, I'll try and throw up images of what I'm talking about, but if you look on the right side of my screen here, you will see kind of a play-by-play about what buttons I pushed. The rotation segment, there's going to be 2 different openers we're going to talk about, one for Glaive Tempest and one for Essence Break. And then after that, I'll go through some of the kind of outside your opener rotations. I'll try and break it down pretty slowly, do the best I can. Things won't always end up perfectly as I'm talking through this, but hopefully you guys can get the general idea. Again, these aren't perfect. This is just kind of what generally happens. There is no, this is the best thing to do in AoE. So just kind of do the most important thing. And the most important thing is going to be having inertia up for your entire opener. Now there's 2 ways to do that. Realistically, you can either Fell Rush off the start, or use your other Fell Rush later on in your opener. Both of them are pretty much the same. It's up to you about which is more comfortable, but you can pick whichever you want. So to start off with rotations, generally speaking, I go up and I use Sigil of Flame, walk into the pack, Immolation Aura, then I'll hunt, use my trinket, Fell Rush through targets, pop a Glaive Tempest, then I-Beam. Then at this point, I'm just going to Fell Rush again because inertia dropped. I'll do Death Sweep, I'll backflip, I'll meta back in, I'll Death Sweep again, and then another I-Beam. Now there, because I went so slow, obviously I didn't have inertia up the whole time, but ideally doing that, you will have inertia up for the entire duration, and you probably want to pop your trinket a bit sooner for the hunt. Doing so, you can get some pretty good damage by doing your rotation that way, so it's pretty simplistic, so to speak. So again, just having your inertia up for the whole rotation. Outside of that, you want to just use Immolation Aura to buff up Death Sweeps and Blade Dances and Glaive Tempest and the hunt. You want to make sure you're not overcapping on Immolation Aura. You want to make sure you are pushing Blade Dance on cooldown. You're pushing the Hunt on cooldown. You're pushing Sigil of Flame on cooldown. Pushing I-Beam on cooldown, pairing it up with Vengeful Retreat whenever possible. See there, boop. And then we'll get our little Death Sweep buffed. Buff up our Glaive Tempest. The Glaive Tempest rotation is pretty simplistic. Really just not overcapping on Fury. Using any excess on Chaos Strike. And spending the rest on Death Sweep whenever it's up, using your Immolation Auras so you're not capping on them, even if you get resets. We're getting good resets here, so we'll just keep spending. just keep spending. There, I wasted inertia proc, but like whatever. So yeah, that's kind of the rotation for AoE for Havoc. It's not very hard. Make sure you're in the pack whenever your Immolation Aura blows up, so you don't lose out all the damage that way. And yeah, nothing too complex here. Basically, outside of the opener, you're just going to use the buttons as they come, saving your inertia for stuff like I-Beam, Death Sweep, Glaive Tempest, The Hunt, and Blade Dance. So nothing too hard. We'll go over and we'll take a look at the Essence Break opener now, which isn't too different. It's pretty simplistic and pretty close to being the same thing. For Essence Break, it's going to be pretty similar, but a little bit different. So I talked about on the GT one how you can use all your Immolation Auras on pull. For Essence Break, I would actually recommend that because of just how tight the window is to fit all your things into the Essence Break window. You need to have it up for both death sweeps, so I think it is a little bit better to do both on pull. So what that's going to look like is something like this: Sigil of Flame, Immolation Aura in the pack, pop our Trinket, Hunt, Bell Rush, Immolation Aura, Bell Rush, I-Beam, Vengeful Retreat, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, and then another I-Beam. Now, if you're a little quicker, you can get them all off inside your inertia window. It's not very hard. Then outside of that, again, it's going to be the exact same as the other playstyle. You're just kind of using all your buttons on cooldown. You want to line up your Essence Break window every 40 seconds, though. It's very, very important you do that, as well as keeping your Rage Fire Explosions in the pack. So the main important thing for the Essence Break is that you want to save one charge of Immolation Aura for it, right? If you don't have that inertia buff when you go into the Essence Break window, I don't want to say you're wasting the window, but you are making the window a lot less potent than it otherwise would be. I'm going to show you what that looks like for single target and for AoE. So on AoE, what you want to do is Immolation Aura into Fell Rush, into I-Beam, Backflip, Essence Break, Death Sweep, and then you do some Annihilations. Obviously, there's no pillar there normally. What you want to do is backflip over the pack, which will allow you to kind of line up pretty well. I use the pillar. It kind of blocked my line of sight, whatever. But outside of that, again, you're just not capping on Fury. You're wanting to spend down your Fury as much as possible. And really, that's it. So this is the Vengeful Retreat angle I was talking about. And like that, obviously in a normal pack, you won't go so far away. And I'll be back in like 10 seconds to show you what it'd be like on a single target. All right, so on a singular target or a boss, instead of empowering the I-Beam, you want to instead empower the 2 Annihilations that you put onto the end. So it'll look something like this. You go Immolation Aura, then you backflip an I-Beam as you go away, Bell Rush in, Essence Break, Death Sweep, and then 2 Annihilations, and that's kind of the variation for single target. For AoE, again, the I-Beam is more powerful than the Annihilations are, so you want to do Fell Rush into the I-Beam to get the Fell Dep damage. But otherwise, that's kind of it. It's not too difficult. Outside of that, you're just using all the buttons, lining up Inertia with Death Sweep, with the Hunt, and saving one for your Essence Break window at basically all times. If you do those things, you'll do very well on AoE, and you will end up just kind of blowing up packs as long as you're allowed to. Immolation Aura is going to be very important to make sure you blow it up in the packs as well. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to stuff like Trinkets and Embellishments and the rest of the guide. All right, so we're going to quickly walk through some gear now. We'll start with Embellishments, then we'll do Trinkets, and then talk about stats, and end it off with some consumable talk. And from there, you should have a good place to begin with Havoc for Mythic Plus. So for Embellishments, there's going to be 2 you want, and you want 2 blue silken lining. So you can see here, I have it on my belt. Blue silken lining is a thing you apply to crafted things. Generally, belts, boots, rings, and wrists are going to be the best slots for Havoc. But basically, you apply it and it gives you a large amount of mastery while you're over 90% health. And this does stack. You can see here, I have 1249, and one of them gives me 624. That obviously times 2 is, I think it's whatever. It's 1249. Anyways, so this here is going to be very powerful. Not only is Mastery one of your best stats in Mythic Plus, as it just increases your Chaos damage, which is basically all your damage except for melees whenever you have any means necessary. Gives you big Rage Fires, gives you big Collective Anguishes, gives you big Hunts. Tons of damage that way. But it also just is good for you, right? Like it does a ton of single target damage. But the reason this is good, because you're like 90% health, how often are you at that? Well, you're at that basically the start of every pull. So you have it when your burst is going off. You can have it normally during pulls. Oftentimes Havoc does a lot of AoE damage, which means you leech a lot of HP back up. That happens often if you're doing big pulls. So you have this pretty often in keys, like 70%, I think 80% uptime, somewhere like that, which means it's really good. There's not really any other good options. You can maybe run Toxic Boots if you want, but I wouldn't ever recommend that. Blue Silken Linings are just so much better. They are very, very, very strong. So recommend that. Go pick that up. For trinkets, best trinket you can get is an on-use. It's called Ashes of the Ember Soul. Now, technically speaking, Witherbark's Branch is a better on-use trinket. However, it's very hard to get full use out of this trinket in Mythic Plus. In most cases, like in Raid, it's a lot easier, and the difference between this and other trinkets in Raid is a lot smaller. Well, the difference between messing this up and just using Ashes of the Ember Soul is pretty big. So, generally speaking, if you can get a Mythic Ashes of the Ember Soul, use that. Otherwise, use Witherbark's Branch, because you can get this from Mythic Plus, which makes it pretty good there. But Ashes is just a very strong 2-minute trinket. You want to passive to pair with that. Now, I don't have a great passive. I just have the Sandglass, which is acceptable. It's not a bad trinket. But from dungeons, the other really good option you can get is going to be from the Black or Cold dungeon. It's a trinket. It is going to be called Ember of Nullification. So this is originally a tank trinket, but it's available to all Agi and Strength users now. Put it on Mythic Plus. So what it does is it's just a agility and versatility stat stick, which is very strong. Agility is a good stat, obviously in AoE. Versatility is really strong at helping you live and helping you deal more damage. So picking this up is probably the best passive from Mythic Plus. Just really, really, really good, and has a nice passive where sometimes you can silence people. There's also another one that's pretty fine as well, called Porcelain Crab, which just gives you some mastery and avoidance. Not as good, I would say, as Ember, but also, you know, pretty decent. And then finally, the best overall trinket is actually from Mirdrasil, and it's going to be Pip's Friendship Badge. This is, again, just another stat stick. It just gives you a ton of stats. You get 280 of either Mastery, Verse, or Crit. Then it cycles through them, giving you like 3,000 of a stat when it cycles before going back down. This is the best damage trinket. If you want a bit more survivability, use Ember. If you want to go really hard in survivability, you can take a Firax's Tainted Rage Heart. This does some good damage, gives you a pretty large shield every minute and a half. Pips drops from Council in the raid. Firax drops from Firak in the raid. And then if you want a survivability trinket from dungeons, you can go with Prophetic Stone Scales, which is a cheat death. Realistically though, Stone Scales and Firax's Heart you only need if you're doing like really, really high keys, where survivability is going to be the deciding factor. The other thing you want to get from this dungeon is going to be weapons, because you want to pick up 2 double time. 2 double time is going to be best for you in Mythic Plus. If you have a 489 weapon, then it's better in the main hand, but a 483 double time, I don't actually have one. I haven't, I don't care. 476 is fine, whatever. But a 483 double time beats everything else in the offhand. A 489 double time beats everything else in the main hand. And if you can't get a 489, then just having 2 483s is going to be great. This is a great weapon. It has full stat budget and also just gives you 1% extra free damage because of Time Strike, which is a 10% chance to trigger 10% extra damage. So those are kind of the things you want to pick up. Honorable mention, I will give it to the Firak trinket that's actually a DPS one, because I'm sure someone's going to ask about it in the comments, and that is going to be Augury. Not as good as you think it is. I have a video about it. There's a post about it somewhere else. If you are not as confident or comfortable with Havoc Demon Hunter, right, you're not as used to it, you're doing smaller pulls, or you want some single target damage, then Augury is more than fine. But generally speaking, if you're good at Havoc, if you're doing your rotation correctly, pushing all your buttons well, and you know the classes to a really good degree, then Augury will be behind stat sticks just because of how it scales. Augury in AoE scales up 15% per target, where a stat trinket would actually give you like 50% because it's buffing your Havoc abilities. And that actually scales further and further. And this gives you crit, where other things can give you like main stat or something like that. So not as good as you might think it is, but it's still fine if you want to pick that up. So that's kind of that for gear. For stats, this is what I currently have. Not perfect, obviously, but gearing mainly towards crit and mastery is the way to go. And then some verse and haste are really good as well. But generally just sim yourself. It's kind of the best thing to do. Nothing too crazy there. All right, so last thing, this is gonna be very quick. It's just going to be consumables. Generally speaking, for enchants and gems and stuff, crit and mastery again, but you can sim yourself. For actual consumables, there's a bit of a discussion. Use Buzzing Rune on your weapons, eat 1000 Bone Tongue Slicer or feasts. I'll throw up images. But for the files is actually where it comes in. So if you're doing lower keys, you're doing, I don't know, like 27s or under really, then just play Ice Vial of Corrupting Rage. It gives you a lot of crit, you do a lot of damage with it. It's very, very good, but it does have some drawbacks, causing you to take damage. On the flip side, if you're doing high keys where you find yourself in danger all the time of dying, then you want to use something like Vial of Tepid Versatility, which just gives you some verse. Verse is good because, again, it is a damage reduction and a damage bonus, which comes in very handy whenever you're doing those higher keys and trying to live while also doing damage, right? So that's kind of really the only talking point about consumables. In terms of potions, I would just use Withering Dreams, but if you're doing a higher key, Dreamwalker's Healing Potion's fine too. But consumables, not really that interesting of a conversation. Just get all the stuff that gives you avoidance, get all the stuff that gives you HP. Oh, actually for weapons. So high eye level, you want to use Wafting Devotions. Lower eye level, the Earthen or Burning Writ might be good as well. But generally speaking, Wafting Devotion is just a very good guess. Low eye level, Sothic might help and like win out. But as you get higher geared, Wafting is just better. But Earthing and Burning Writ can both win out. So that's kind of it for consumables. Not a very long talk. I don't think I need to give you guys one. Just kind of boring stuff. But yeah, so use all those things if you're looking for that. So yeah, that is my updated 10.2.5 Havoc Demon Hunter Mythic Plus guide. Obviously, this is aimed to be more of a quick guide. I know there's a lot of stuff that I kind of broke down a little quickly. I did rotations, talents, whatever. But if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Obviously, this is an updated guide. I will be doing another updated, well, I'll be doing another new guide, I guess, for season 4 whenever that comes out, probably in a few months' time. But otherwise, I'm not really going to touch the Mythic Plus content for Havoc, at least for like an updated guide until that happens. So this is kind of going to be the most up-to-date you can be. But yeah, if you have any questions, drop them below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe as well. We are pushing up to 10,000, which is insane. I think we're under 500, which is great. So thank you all for watching. Drop a like, drop a comment if you have any questions, subscribe, and see you guys all next time. Peace. A big thank you to all my channel members. Thank you Sky Elk, Fede Gregori, Andrew Kino, Guillermo Lamas, Period, Brad Wisniak, It's Bulk, Magic Man 133, and Howley. Thank you all so much. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate the extra support. If you guys want to support me, consider becoming a channel member below. You get access to exclusive videos and some emotes to use in comments and stuff, as well as a special part of my Discord. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.